Alright, looking inside the fender now, towards the back there, I added this tab. The tab's welded right to the car, and then there's another tab that's welded to the fender support, and it's threaded so that I can run a number 10 bolt through there and stabilize the fender so it doesn't move in and out at this point. And that's the last attachment point I had to provide. I'm going to go around the driver's side and do the same thing now. Alright, so I'm installing the front inner fender tubs, the rubber inner liners, mud shields if you want to call them that. So I've put my threaded inserts in everywhere there's normally a push pin, here and up there and on this side here and in the back right over here. And first thing I did was, once I've got it set inside, it's nice because it goes from probably 3/4 of an inch of a gap in the front down to about, it's like 1/2 of an inch back here. So there's not much that has to be added to the rim here of ABS plastic in order to make it touch the inner fender over here. So what I had to do also is, they're naturally a little bit longer because of the front end of the Challenger. So in order to trim this odd shape up flat, I just took this, it's an adjuster, it's a piece of 1/2 inch nut welded on it. You've seen these if you looked at any of my other videos. And I've got a little piece of 1/2 inch up there with a marker set through it. And it's not set right now, but I have it set to the, just run it along the floor here because the car's sitting flat. And just trace across and then trim it across, you know, relative to this bottom edge here, and that trims it up really nice and neatly with the bottom, and it'll enable me to make closures for the bottom side. I'm starting the patterns for the ones in the front here, or excuse me, in the back of the wheel tub, the front of the side, and I'll make this out of aluminum. And this will give me a place to attach and stabilize the back of this rubber fender tub. Normally there's a big giant plastic guard that goes under here and comes up on the Challenger, but obviously that's no longer going to work because of the way the rockers are. I'll have to close this up also. But anyway, I have to make sure this is just to keep both the debris out and also some place to secure the tail side of this. So I'll have to do the same thing on the front side here, create it's a little hard to see there, but create a closure around here from the roll pan over to here to give this front someplace to attach. So that's what I'm up to right now, scooting around the floor again. Good times. Alright, so this is what this closure panel looks like. This will be the rim that I screw through the plastic and into to stabilize the inner wheel tub. And this portion here, this lip here, I'll form that to the rails underneath the car. So I'll attach that with just some sheet metal screws, and then I'll seal it in with some seam sealer after it gets painted. Anyway, that's kind of what that panel looks like. Alright, I just thought I'd show you this piece in place before I paint it out. Basically, that you can see that I've got that rim here. These rubber inner fender tub screws to that stabilizes this, and this is cut and trimmed to these rails over here and just screwed into the side with some Tech screws. And while it acts as a stabilizer for this rear rim, it also just keeps garbage from that cavity on top over here. Okay, so this is the front closure piece. This is the side that screws into the bottom of the roll pan, which there's a recess in that area. So this is going to be up from the roll pan, so you won't see it. And these are just to make the panel rigid front to rear. And then this tab over here and this one over here is where the rubber inner liner will actually screw to this flange. Okay, so here's what that closure panel looks like in place. And come around to this side here. You can see that it's secured through the back. Get some light in there on the bottom side. I don't know why this is missing material. The other side is missing a lot of material. It looks like it must have come loose during the history of this car, and the tire rubbed right through it there. And on the other side is really bad. But anyway, that's what it looks like secured. And the other side is going to be pleasantly easier than was on my car, and also the last car that I did, which was the orange GTX, in that the water bottles on this 2011, that GTX was a 2010, and of course mine was a 2006, the water bottles really were way down here. I mean, they were to the point where I had to make a little pod to hold the bottom in my closure panel to shield the bottom from getting damaged from road debris. Now this one, they've shortened this up considerably, which means that my panel's just going to be a flush panel in here, which is nice. Everything's a plus. Okay, so this is out of the car now, and you can see how much I'm going to have to add to the rim. This is the front side. This is the widest gap right here, but I'll just follow along here and add a piece right along to this rim here. This one here is a lot easier than the rear, I can tell you that much. This is a nice flat transition right here to add a piece to, and so you didn't have all the different curves and angles that the back one has. Anyway, got to add to that and see what happens next. Well, they were out of black ABS, so I had to get white ABS. I'll have to paint it now. But anyway, this gives you an idea of how much had to be added to this rim. And once again, everything's backed up with backup washers and aluminum rivets so that it's a little bit more pliable and they don't rust. But anyway, that's it. Got to try it, see if it fits, see if I need to trim a little bit off, because sometimes this shape, it doesn't hold true when you put it back in from the pattern. Well, you may recall from the last episode that I had tied this lower fender in up on this radiator core support. Turns out that was this is just a little too flexible out here on the end, so it's still a little bit wiggly. So I took the same tab and I ran another stop. It's solid welded here and then bolted on down over here, and it goes right to this steel inner wheel tub at the end, and it's plenty strong now and it's not wiggling anymore. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that little change. Okay, so I got the rim on the right side, or the passenger side of the car, the wheel tub. This one involved a little bit more work, because I guess at some point this must have come loose on the Challenger with the previous owner, and this must have been laying on the tire for an extended period of time, because this was all completely obliterated from here down. So I had to take a piece of I think it's 040 aluminum and then just kind of shape it to fit into all these contours to replace this lower end over here to complete this out. Anyway, so I've got to paint this out, and what I end up doing with the other side is I painted that one up already, and so you can see what that looks like painted out. But I use an adhesion promoter on the plastic, which is this stuff here, and while it's still wet, then I go ahead and I'll use this this stuff here. This is not the can that I used. I have some satin black actually here. There you go. This stuff right here. It's made for vinyl and leather inside the car, so it has a pretty good adhesion to plastic in combination with the adhesion promoter. So that gives it its best chance of sticking to the plastic, so to speak. Anyway, on to the next thing. Okay, with the grill out, what's a good opportunity for me to do right now is to adjust this hood latch and to try and get the hood corners to be flushed out with the top of the fenders. Now, Originally, I thought these would be sufficient. These bumpers that you can wind up or down that were from the Challenger, they fit right back in. And I put moved the pad that was in the hood back to that location. But there's too much of a moment arm from here to here. So this wants to kind of wiggle up and down. So I had to add a couple of these more conventional rubber bumpers in the corner. What I did was, there's already an embedded bolt here, an embedded nut in the top of the fender in both of these locations to secure the latch tray for the top of the grill assembly. So all I did was I drilled this out to 5/16 18 threads here, so that I could use this for a dual purpose. In other words, I'll be able to use this as an assembly point for that by putting these through just like I would for the 1/4 20 bolt holes that are in the rear and that were here. Anyway, it's a good location. It's nice and stout on its own. So I just moved this forward. So now what I have to do is create a landing pad up on the hood, and I'm going to take some 70 thousandths steel and basically make this piece here to fit. You can see where I've got the circle drawn. This will fit up into here, and I'll be able to weld this up into here right about there, and that'll give me a strong point for this hood to land on, so that it's not just on a flat part of the hood. And also I've made sure that I've made it to where these vertical pieces will land on the rubber bumper, as opposed to a larger pad that would be beyond here that this might dent the center in, because it's just, even though it's 70 thousandths, it's still sheet metal, and you got the full weight of the hood here, so we want that to be a solid contact there to counter this hold down point here. So anyway, I've already done the adjusting on this, and now I've got to get to this and get that put in. Okay, so there's the little landing pad welded in there, and another one over here, so that the hood's got something solid to stop on. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that. Okay, so that was a fun little first ride with this thing. It's got a really touchy accelerator. It just wants to go. Anyway, found out a couple of things from that little jaunt up and down the driveway. I've had put some tape underneath the leading edge of the wheel holes in order to see where and if I had any tire rub, especially with my going up and doing some really sharp turns and getting the wheel cranked over pretty hard. And found out I didn't have nearly the clearance I thought I did with these wheel holes in the front. So what I did was, Don's a pretty big fella. He's about 6'4", about 275. So what you're looking at there is about 200 pounds of media blast sand, and in the footwell there I have another 75 pounds of brake rotors. Anyway, I wanted to see what the car looked like, loaded up with the driver, and what kind of potential we have for clearance. And what I ended up with was a situation where I had to cut this wheel opening up another inch and radius it a little bit more on the outsides here, and I'm reestablishing the rim and everything else that I had to cut out of here so that I have enough room to let this tire turn out lock to lock. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to order, there's a little booster kit that you can pack out the top of the shock with, and while this is only like a ½ inch away from the tire turning completely out with all this weight in it, in other words, it's not a complete radius, it's a ½ inch away from being a complete radius. So when it's turned out, it has good clearance right now, but under dynamic situations where you're going up, say, an irregular driveway or something like that, who knows what's going to happen here. So we could use a little bit more boost in the front, kick it up. I don't think it'll affect the front to rear rake. So we're going to get a little, there's a little booster kit that you can get that goes on top of the spring and the shock setup that will lock into the top of the tower. It extends the top of the tower about an inch, raises this up just a little bit, and that should help me be sure that we don't have any issues with this. So I'm working on both sides at once, trying to match them up. You know, it's not fun to have to cut out a bunch of work you've already done, but bottom line is that it's even less fun after the car's painted. Alright, here's a pretty annoying little job here. You see these little aftermarket lights? You see how they sit? They sit up on top. They're about 1/8 of an inch up on top of these little holes that are stamped in the AMD metal. Now, it's not the fault of the manufacturer of these pieces that these don't sit in there. It's the recess that's stamped into the hood. So what I've done on this side is, in addition to hitting this with a small belt sander to open up the area, I wanted to leave this little rim on here, this little down rim. So in order to do that and make the hole the right size, I had to take a small metal chisel and then slowly beat this down, beat the corners in, beat this over into here, and leave about 1/8 of an inch of metal in the down direction, because you have these little rims here that have to catch on something, and then you have a retainer clip that comes on from the back side that holds the whole mess in there. So I need something to land on. So now I have to add back a little tab on both sides here in order for this to sit down. Now that I've got this to fit, and I got to be careful because it's just going to fall through here. Okay, so you can see now that this goes down flush with the surface of this little indention here, and as you can see, I'm pushing it in a little too far. It's going to just pop right through. But anyway, I've got to get something to keep that from, weld something on the bottom side to keep that from popping all the way through. So that's going to be a little bit trick, and I'll show you that when I'm done. So rather than try to fiddle with two tiny tabs that have to be welded on either side here, what I've done is I've attached a piece of metal that'll span the entire gap to a piece of wire, and that way I can hold it up in there against this and get it centered up and hopefully I can tack this. Is still awkward. Hopefully I can tack that on, and then I can cut the center out of it, and I'll end up with 2 tabs that'll retain the little signal light. Lots of fun. Alright, so I got that cross piece welded in there now. I just got to cut off and clean it up and see if it holds. Okay, so there you have the 2 tabs welded in after I cut the center out, and then I cleaned it up with a small belt sander. So let's just feed the wire in here and get that down inside there. Now I can press that firmly into place, and it's not going anywhere, and I can put the clamp on the back side and retain it. As with everything with a car, it's rinse and repeat. Do the other side now. Okay, so I just finished up this wheel opening here, getting it widened out and opening it up on the top a little bit by 1 inch. Also went ahead and drilled these holes. These are a little bit painstaking because you got to make sure you don't go too far, because those things clip in, and if the hole's too small, they won't come back out. If they're too big, they won't ever clip in. So I spent a little time doing a little more panel alignment, shimming up the fenders, getting everything a little bit flatter. Worked on this, opening up this joint here a little bit more. Also worked on getting this shimmed up a little bit better so that this all works together a little bit better. Anyway, the next step is going to be obviously to start tearing it down and get it into the paint shop and start on that nasty business. So I got a little bit of work to do as far as getting it all back apart and getting all the pieces protected and out of harm's way, and then getting it maneuvered over there and set on blocks, and then the taping up the engine compartment and all that good stuff. Anyway, this is actually probably the last episode for quite a while. I'm not a paint and body specialist, so I barely hold my own there. So I'm not going to be showing you anything much there. So it may be getting some updates every other week or so, depending on my progress. And I appreciate everybody who watched up to this point. And thanks to Don for allowing me to do this project for him. It was a whole lot of fun, and I think it's going to be one tough car when it's all done. Anyway, I will see you in the next one.